Back at the crib here live on X and on YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel. It's the House of Pop there on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, like all the videos. Check out the shorts that we're doing as well. If you miss anything of this episode, or you got to dip out a little bit later, all of the audio versions are available for you on all of your podcast destinations, whether that's Apple Podcasts. Check us out on Spotify as well. And as always, we try to come to you live on X here on a Monday night. The crew might look a little bit different this week. We'll get to our special guest in a moment. My name is Jeremy Poplin. That is Dion Amade. And filling in for my man Colby tonight, who I think is on Thunder duty with the back-to-back now with the Minnesota Timberwolves coming into the Paycom Center this evening. He's got, a real job to take care of, the one that actually pays him money instead of hanging out with our dumbasses on Monday nights. The Big O, Jerry Ostrowski, or should I say podcaster extraordinaire, live streamer through Buffalo Rumblings, has just kind of taken the world by storm up in Buffalo Bills land. What's going on, my dude?
I'm doing good. Now, remember, Buffalo Rumblings fired all of us last year, so we're actually over.
Oh, that's right.
Buffalo now.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Overreaction Buffalo. I'm doing great. Any chance I get to hang out with you and my man Dion, I'm taking it. So Monday night was kind of stale on the TV. I'm waiting for the TGL tomorrow night. That's my Tuesday night watch. None of my golf content YouTube channels released anything new today. So, man, I appreciate you having me on, dude.
There's no doubt. Well, and Dion is kind of a budding little golf superstar here. I don't know if he's got your Herald starter kit. Are you rocking the Jays yet on the golf course, Dion? Have you bought any yet?
Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing, and I feel like I told you this last year, Pop, but I have made it like a deal with myself. You can't go out there repping Jordan, repping all the flyest gear, and then over here shooting 120. Okay. Like I am waiting till I break 100 before I buy any J's, before I buy like any like fancy, like, shoes or equipment or buy new clubs. Once I break 100, all right, I'm gonna bring out the freshest gear.
Jerry, you should have seen the look on his face, though, when he got to meet Harold Varner III at the live event that was going on, because my man Varner's wearing, just sponsored by Jay's, got everything on. Oh, my gosh.
He had those 12s, those taxis, and I was like, bro.
Look, you got to understand, it's exciting for me, because I had about a 4-year hiatus with this bad knee of mine. I finally got my other knee replaced. Now I'm back, and I'm playing, right? Back in the day, like big man golf clothes wasn't a thing, man. Like you were wearing the same like navy blue, black. I mean, it was like just stagnant. I come back after 4 years away, man, and there's this deal called Breezy Golf, right? Fat Perez. They sell all kinds of cool stuff, right? I got freaking transfusion shirts. I got Have a Day shirts. I got joggers.
Yes, you got to have the joggers.
Then my steady New Balance. They're actually making some shoes with some style to them for the big dude. I couldn't be happier, man. I'm excited about
it. Big O, you got to check out East Side Golf. All right, just East Side Golf. We're not doing no free plugs or anything, but I'm just saying East Side Golf. Check them out. That they got some fresh stuff, man.
I'd like to hit some good, but those dudes are all like little itty bitty. So they got 3X, but it's that cut down athletic 3X, man.
Bro, with the dry fit material, so it's smaller.
Hey, speaking of golf content, nothing new on your channels maybe have dropped today, but did you see the little sneak preview of the Scotty Scheffler situation that dropped today on Twitter on the Full Swing Season 3 trailer?
Yeah, I did. I'm excited to take a look at that. I don't think we really understand just how jacked up that whole thing was.
No, we don't at all. My favorite line from the trailer today was the cop asking Scotty Scheffler, "So that you play on the PGA, that means you must be pretty good, huh?" And Scheffler's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Yeah, I'm okay. All right, man. Well, we typically talk a lot of college football in this podcast. We will also shoot the breeze on just a variety of different things that happened from throughout the week as well. But I'm glad that you're here tonight, because one of the topics that I wanted to bring up is changes not only that's happening to the college football landscape from on the field, whether that's the SEC adding a ninth game and college football playoff additions coming in 2026, reseeding of the tournament in 25. But one of the big topics in the last, 2 days, and then this has been kind of rumblings out there for the past year. You've seen all these programs like Texas and Nebraska come out and say, the spring football as we know it, it's done. And we probably won't be going back to a version of spring football that you two are very familiar with. I'm familiar with from a media standpoint. And I wanted to get both of your opinions on spring football transitioning to something new. We don't quite know what that is yet. I think it will be on an individual basis. But a lot of them want to go to the OTA model that the NFL implements. And I know in our conversations off the air, you felt like that was probably something that you would agree with. So we'll just start there. Jerry, first, your thoughts on spring football going away, the impact that could potentially have, and is this just the natural progression to the next step in the college game?
I think spring ball has been archaic. It's been archaic for a long, long time. I think spring ball is nothing but more and more wear and tear on your players. You have to understand things are different than when I played, as far as strength and conditioning and those types of things. These kids, their days are accounted for from sun up until sundown as far as workouts, lift in the morning or run in the morning, lift in the afternoon, meetings, all those types of things. The human body, and Pop, you and I have talked about this a million times. The human body can only take so many reps, right? And to throw then 15 practices in there, and every coach is figuring out a way to get more and more out of these guys within quote unquote staying in the rules. And it's physics, man. It's anatomy. The body can't take it. And if you want to eliminate the number of injuries you're having in the season, you've got to start taking care of these guys in the off season. I think the biggest thing about the off season, especially with young kids, most of these guys, in a couple of instances, you learn physicality and some toughness and working through some things. But honestly, we all know these strength coaches nowadays. Everybody's implementing some sort of tug of war, some sort of one-on-one stuff. There's competition in everything they do. So it's kind of made spring practice archaic. You can get more out of bringing guys in helmets or not even having helmets on or limiting the number of helmeted practices and going through plays, going through scripts, going through those types of things. And I really hope this is the case. And, I say it all the time. If college players want to be treated like the NFL guys, then you got to do it across the board. You can't just go halfway in, right? You've got to do it across the board. So I'm a big advocate. I don't know what Dion feels, but I'm a huge advocate of eliminating spring practice and going to the OTA model because honestly, it gets the kids healthy. It allows kids to have surgeries and not have pressure to get back for spring practice. And then it also allows kids to just sit back and learn and rest and heal and grow.
Dion, you've always been a big spring football fan.
Before I answer that question, I kind of want to take the opportunity. I think something that we should do more on this show is like educate the people who are listening. And for a lot of people who didn't get that experience, don't even know what OTAs is. Jerry, as somebody who's, been a part of that situation and that kind of program, what exactly is OTAs?
OTAs, Pop, you might remember. It stands for like
organized team activities.
Okay, OTAs. And so basically what it is, it gives teams the opportunity in the off season to have their players around. Now, granted, they say in the collective bargaining that these OTAs are not mandatory, but we all know that they are mandatory. So players will be in town. The ones that are training there obviously are already there. The ones that are training out of town will come in town and they'll practice and they'll have these group gatherings. Now in the NFL, there's 3 stages. The first stage, the coaches can't even be out there. I don't even know if they can have footballs. Basically the players organize the practices. They go through plays and those types of things. The second phase, they can get footballs. Some coaches can be out there, but they're not allowed to have any sort of contact or any of those things. And then the third phase is what we used to call mini camp, which is the true put a helmet on. You don't have shoulder pads on, I don't believe. but you can go out, have 9-on-7, inside, 1-on-1, 7-on-7, have some physical contact, but that is extremely limited. So it's just an opportunity. It's a huge teaching opportunity to get your guys up to speed on what you want to do schematically when the season comes around in the fall.
So it's pretty much shorts and t-shirts and just going through uh,
Right.
football drills and different
Right.
things to keep
Right.
your mind fresh and up to speed on things that you're going to do. So when you go into practice, you're not going
Right.
in cold, correct?
Exactly. That's exactly
See,
what it is.
it's always funny when they make these rules where like coaches aren't allowed to be there and coaches can't do this and coaches can't do that. And it's always funny to see how like those coaches so happen to have a meeting with the quarterback or a meeting with the captain of the defense and puts a paper down and says, what would be a good idea for you to, do during practice. And so it's like they're running the practice, but they're not actually at practice.
Right. And I think some of this guys, and I don't know, you could probably speak on this a little bit, but I think some of it too is grandstanding in recruiting, obviously. Players, and I think you're seeing it in the NFL, and it kind of all goes hand in hand. You just said it earlier, Pop. SEC wants to add a ninth game. The season right now is what, 12 games in college football, or 11 games
Regular season, yeah.
regular season, and then you have the postseason, tournament and bowl games. I wouldn't doubt if that eventually goes up as far as games go. So you're talking about kids 18, some cases 17, but usually 18 to 22, 18 to 23 that are going out there and they're playing an immense amount of football. And then you throw 15 days of spring practice into it, which we all know that spring practice is when we're going to go ahead and we're going to toughen up and make you a man. That was tongue in cheek, by the way. So something's got to give. And it's just like the NFL. I mean, if you look at most of these teams nowadays with them playing 17 games, soon to play 18, not counting preseason and playoffs, most of these teams are out of pads halfway through the season.
I think
You got to take care of the guys.
the point you bring up about the 15 days, knowing how controlling and control freaks that coaches are, to essentially take one of those days, and yes, you're still getting work in a game format to a certain extent,
Right.
but it's like you're almost crumbling up, one of your days and throwing it out the window without getting another full day in the limited amount of ability that you have around each other to really get the full extent out of what you're trying to accomplish during spring football. And there are some numbers, and I'm glad that these numbers came out today, because ESPN and Bill Connelly had a piece that was talking about returning production averages, and he went through teams that have most returners coming back. And it's a crapshoot, right, in today's day and age of portal and NIL.
Right.
But this is the part that I found the most interesting on this, and I think it falls into right what they want to accomplish with the, hey, we can get more out of an OTA setting than we can in just a scrimmage. 2021, okay, 4 years ago, the overall average nationally of production that returned to a team, the average was you got about 76.7% of your production back. The very next year, 2022, that number fell to 62.9. 2023, that number is at 60.2. 2024, 59.9. And 2025, before we even get into the next transfer portal, guys, in 4 years, we went from 76.7% to 53.7. You can't sit here and try to make this argument now that you are getting the most out of your team by doing the traditional spring football practice route, when you could be getting more reps in specifically with your individual units in practice than what the OTA model presents to them.
No, I agree. And the other thing is, and Dion can attest to this, I mean, if I'm coming into a new situation as a 2 or 3 year player, I think I got and they're paying me good money to be there. I think I got the game figured out. I think I understand how to practice and do those things. So what do I have to do? I have to learn my new team's offense, or my new team's defense, or my new team's philosophy. And you do that through OTAs. I mean, yes, you learn some of that in spring ball, but I say this all the time. If you don't like change, you're really not going to like irrelevance. And, it's happening.
That's the thing that I think is caught up with the game, and people are starting to figure out not just the fact that, I mean, sometimes when it comes down to winning football games at the end of the season and playoff time, it's all about luck because you were lucky enough to stay healthy. So
Right.
finding more ways to stay healthy is very essential. And on top of that, and no offense, Big O, but back when you were playing ball, I mean, you ran the ball what 60-70% of the time, except for when you guys came out with that fast-paced offense and was kind of the starting point for the whole air raid system and no huddle and up-tempo offense. But now football is so much of a finesse game that you need to have it between the ears as far as knowing the ins and outs of the offense or the defense, because adjustments and things are happening so fast and there's so much between it's not 24 power or 34 lead anymore. It's it's this and that and making options and changes and routes and things. So much stuff is happening that you have to have the foundations mentally to pick up the game at the fast pace that it's going in. There's just so much going on now that you have to study up first before you could kind of impart that physicality of the game into it.
Right.
To your point on reps, Jerry, and the body having it feels like in the last 3, 4, 5 years, I've heard coaches across the country start to really change the way they speak, like in press conference settings and to the fan bases when their coaches shows about week 4 or week 5, where they talk already about, all right, we're at that point in the season and we're not even to conference play yet, where we've got to start pulling back a little bit from what we're doing in practice to limit the injuries that we're already seeing so far across, because it just seems like they just continue to go up and up and up. And a knee's one thing. We're talking now like just your average soft tissue injuries that are going to keep you out of 1-2 games through the course of a season.
Right. I mean, you've seen in Buffalo this year, we recently fired the head strength coach, and he wasn't unemployed very long. Jacksonville hired him this week, but Eric Ciano, and it's I think it's definitely related to the amount of soft tissue injuries that team has had over the last 3 to 4 seasons. It's a really fine line between training guys and getting them ready and overtraining players. And I really think, especially in college, because in the pros, once you got up there, man, like I remember being in Buffalo, like even back then in the 90s, our strength coach was like just pissed if we were doing a bunch of weight on the bench. It was all prehab. It was nothing, any sort of revolutionary prehabilitation to prevent injury he was doing. I mean, Reebok balance boards, so on. I mean, it was so, just all that stuff. And I just think that it's such a fine line because, like I say, these college guys, man, those strength coaches got their rear ends. I mean, they're in there right now this offseason, and Dion can attest, it's twice a day. It's running in the morning, lifting in the afternoon, probably some meetings in there, bring them back at 9 o'clock at night once or twice a week and do competition stuff on the field.
Yep.
It's constant. And at some point, physically, the body has to rest. And not just the body, but the mind has to rest. You got to allow your kids to get away. So when you told me that off air, Pop, I was excited because to me, if I was a player nowadays, and I know that a lot of people kind of, I hung my hat on being tough and all that stuff. I'd be trying to find ways to get out of spring ball. If I knew I was the cat, if I knew I was that dude, I'd be like, damn, coach, I got to get my finger operated on this offseason.
The same way that you guys did, the same way that you guys when you went to camp, just trying to find ways to not participate.
Yes.
And here's the thing, Coach Gundy said it best when he was kind of describing players, especially the type of players that you need to play this day and age of college football. Dudes are Ferraris, man. And one soft tissue, one little nick, one little bump, one little bruise. I mean, I'm not saying guys aren't tough guys at all, but it affects the way they play. when you don't feel 100%, when that Ferrari isn't 100%, it's not going to run and purr as well as it was if it were 100%. And that's
Now,
that's the thing.
yeah, I never related to that. I was more of a Peterbilt from day one. I don't got a Ferrari in my house, but I definitely got a Ford Raptor, and I understand. I mean, it's always some of these guys, can be their own worst enemy because they're not going to back off because they don't want to be called soft, and they'll try to fight through it and just make it worse. And so I'm glad to hear about it. Hopefully, the legislation happens. They give them the OTAs, allow these kids to stink and rest in the off season a little bit and just go do drills and learn the systems and get ready for the fall.
Another thing before we get off this topic, that's exactly when injuries happen, when mentally you're fatigued and you're just kind of going through the motions and you're not really 100% focused on the task at hand. That's when injuries happen. So it's good to see like situations like witches, what happens in spring ball. As much as we love the game, as much as you love being out there, sometimes, it's a drag.
Right. You learn little tells real quick. I'll tell this quick story, Pop. I know you want to jump on, but it was like Bruce Smith. If one chin strap was buckled, that meant hands off. If two were buckled, that meant you could put hands on them for about 5 seconds, but then you had to get off. So there were signs of what you could and couldn't do as far as physicality in a practice.
All right, I wanted to move on to our next topic, and that was the injury problem that seems to be bugging a lot of people in the sport. And what I mean by injury problem is you've heard coaches call them out. We've seen examples of it about delaying the game by faking injuries on the field. And there have been a number of different, at least ideas that have been brought up, guys, about, all right, how do we stop this? How is there a way to completely stop this or not? And I know that there's been a lot behind the scenes with some of the competition committees and the officials in the college game that have basically had enough of what they've seen. Now, I think this is a very tricky situation if you are an official. And being an official in this sport is not easy. It's not easy in any sport. But one of the ideas that they're bringing up now is, hey, if we really want to knock this out of the game, one of the ideas is if you have to leave after being down on the field and you have to go to the sidelines, you are then potentially required to sit out the rest of that series on defense or offense. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks that's a little, I don't know how any coach would look at that. And I think it's one of those things where a coach thinks that that's a really good idea until it happens to him. And it's a legitimate injury where one of his best dudes has to go out and then can't go back in a very key moment of the game. And then he'll be like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Why did we ever pass this? So is there a way to fix this? And do you like that potential idea?
Before we answer that question, Big O, real quick, back in y'all's day, what'd you call it? Because we had a call on defense for, especially with the up-tempo offense.
We didn't have it back then.
No,
we didn't have it back then.
Bro, everybody calls possum.
Yeah.
It's called possum.
Right.
I feel like everybody uses the same call for and same signal, especially playing back in 2010 where that air raid offense was up and going, and you're like, hey, we needed a blow, we needed a breather, and one of the defensive linemen had to get on the ground and just pretend like he was cramping or something. You call possum. So I was interested to see if they didn't have anything for y'all.
No, we didn't have anything back then. I mean, really, our no huddle offense was, it was up tempo, but it wasn't like some of the stuff they do now. I mean, it was more of a sugar huddle type thing. I mean, we were rolling, but it wasn't at the speeds that they do now. I don't remember anybody. I'm sure somebody had something. I don't remember any as far as possum or anything like that, but no, it's definitely prevalent now. Me personally, I'm kind of torn with what the what you said, Pop, as far as giving the officials. The last thing we want to do is give officials on the field something else to have to worry about.
Yep.
Because they can't do the job as it is. The game has become so fast that the human eye and the human mind cannot process what is going on fast enough anyway. So the last thing I want to do is slow these brains down anymore to where they're not performing on the field as far as doing what they're supposed to do, that being the officials. Now, I I kind of like the idea of sitting out the whole series. I think you're going to have to do it like, kind of like we called him the sock czar in the NFL. There was one usually retired player. They still have these guys. He's a retired player. He's on the field for pregame warmups. All the guys come on the field and he writes up his deal. Dion Amade, too many sweatbands, too much color showing on his socks, wrong cleats.
Fine.
And he writes all this stuff up and gives it to the equipment manager. And the equipment manager comes into the locker room before kickoff, before you go out for announcements, and says, "Hey, you got to do this," and gives the player the opportunity to change it. If they don't change it, then they get fined. So if they're going to do this, they're going to have somebody like that. That's
Yeah.
the possum police, so to speak, and be the guy that, hey, Dion went down. He's got to be out this series, and then maybe throw in something like this. If you really need that guy and it's crunch time, if you bring him back in before the series is over, you burn a timeout or
Yep.
something. Maybe give him a penalty for that. But if they do this, and I think a series is appropriate, I really do. They can't have it on the on-field officials though. They got to have an eye in the sky
Yes.
that's doing it, because the on-field dudes are they're lost already. They don't need any more.
Which presents a unique problem because the game itself at the college level has tried to do nothing but speed the game up and get it within TV windows. We've talked about this a lot. Baseball has had a miraculous turnaround with speeding up their game. College football has been trying to speed the game up as well. If you introduce this and then the eye in the sky, so to speak, or the sky judge, you use technology to try to help at least figure your way through this. Problem is I know this from going on games like at, I don't know, Arkansas State, where it's just an ESPN Plus broadcast where they literally have 2 cameras in the entire joint that are presenting, the television presentation on ESPN Plus. It'd be fine in the big conferences if you could do that, but I don't know how you regulate that throughout the entire course of college football, because those things are not equal. They're not even playing the same sport.
But here's another problem with that though. And here it comes with the safety of the game. Is I know they're trying to regulate, fake injuries, but what happens when there's a real injury? And just to play devil's advocate, what happens when there's a real injury and a player doesn't want to come off the field and makes his situation even worse because he doesn't want to miss a snap and have to miss the whole series? That could be a situation where we're putting the kids in more harm than actually realizing that we're doing. And on top of that, there's a workaround with that. I mean, when you're playing possum to begin with, you're not choosing your best player to go down and give the whole team a break. You're choosing that, defensive lineman who's going to come out anyways, or who comes in and plays 2 snaps in a series. So, I mean, are we really, hindering the defense or opposing teams from faking injuries to get a little break and get a little gamesmanship? There's still variables at play here that doesn't solve that issue.
No, I think you're 100% correct, and it's definitely a hard situation to try to come up with an answer for. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll come up with something. Hell, I don't know. Have your normal timeouts and then have one pace of play timeout a half. I don't know. I mean, there's different things you can do, but they have to do something, because some of the stuff, the guys that come off the field and they walk into the tent and walk right back out of the tent and walk right back behind the coach. Come on, man. I mean, that's crazy.
The next topic I wanted to get into, you touched on this a little bit, Jerry, but additions to the college football playoff. And I'm not looking at it this week from seeding or automatic buys or anything else. I'm just talking total number of games. Dion's been big on this every single week that we've talked about it. Is what we're seeing right now too many games in college football? Because you just had a team that finished off a season that played 16 games by the time they got to the championship. If we have these changes they're talking about, that means adding 2 more games at minimum to the college football playoff. And if they want to change the championship weekend the way that they are potentially looking at in the Big Ten, ACC, who knows, maybe even conferences like the Big 12, where you would add even another game on top of that, plus a ninth conference game in some conferences like the SEC. Are we at a breaking point with too many games already in college football, and we're only 1 year into a traditional playoff setting?
I don't believe so. Especially if they go ahead and do a spring practice and go to the OTA model. I think that helps a lot. Now you have to understand something. Huge fan of one AA football.
Yeah.
Me. You win a one AA national championship, you're playing 15 or 16 games. Okay. It's kind of the same thing. And we talk about the state of Oklahoma. Uh, the 6A schools that have the hugest rosters play less games than the 2A school that's becoming a state champion. So it happens. I mean, one AA has done it. To me, the answer is I think and I know they don't want to get rid of them because they make a bunch of money. But if you're going to have a breaking point, the conference championship game's got to go bye bye. And I think as we move towards this merger, which I think is inevitable, when it does happen, and we get these couple of super conferences or one super conference, and you start getting into cross bracket playing in during the regular season and kind of controlling schedules, which is basically like we keep talking about the NFL model. It'll take care of itself because everybody will be under more control. But I think the conference championship games to me are pointless. I think they're great for the conferences because they make a lot of money, but I think you do away with them, you add your games, and you go with it. And honestly, guys, I don't have any sympathy. The amount of money that a lot of these dudes are making, I don't. I mean, if you want to make that money, you got to play games to have the money made, and then revenue sharing and all that. So, no, I don't. I don't have any sympathy for it.
I hear you, Big O, but I feel like we're forgetting a little bit about specifically conference championships, what it means to win a championship. Like a conference championship is still a big deal for the sole purpose of I know this is football and we're all idolizing being a national champion and being that one, but like winning a championship and celebrating with your teammates and lifting up a trophy, that means something. It might not be bottom line as far as making money and doing things for the game, but whatnot. It might not mean something or make sense to everybody, but that feeling for those men and those players and that team and that university and everybody who gets to go to that championship game and call themselves Big 12, SEC, ACC champions, wearing that ring, going, after football, being in the workforce and being able to tell people and walk around and be like, yeah, we were, ACC Big 12 champions when I was there. That means something. That still holds a high regard in just the individual feeling of a program and a player. And I would hate to see that go away.
I agree with you. It meant something to me about 5 to 10 years ago. It doesn't mean anything to me now because I can go out and buy a team to win a championship. I don't have to build a team. I don't have to recruit high school players and sign 25 to 30 of them and develop them and turn them into players and then go win a championship with my blood, sweat, and tears that I put on the road recruiting. I think we're in this stage of trying to have our cake and eat it too. You're either all in or you're all out. And obviously, by what's going on, you chose the professional model, so you need to live with it, and you need to live with the consequences. And those consequences are conferences don't mean a damn thing anymore. Team championships to me don't mean a thing anymore because you can be 0-4, have somebody die and give you $250 million of the football program and go out and buy a team and win one the next year. That's nothing to me. That doesn't accomplish anything to me. That's I mean, hell, even professional football, they still go ahead and have the draft and have to develop players, and they'll get free agents where they need them. At least they have to develop teams. They just can't, be a certain way and then have an unlimited amount of money and go spend on free agents. I mean, I just don't have any sympathy with that anymore. This is what was chosen. This is the area we're in. So be all the way in or get all the way out. And we're all obviously not going back. So get all the way in. That's just my opinion on it.
Hey Jerry, how much fun are you having in this new stage of your life with Overreaction Buffalo Sports and what you're doing? You know, getting to hang out with Fina again and
Yeah.
seeing all the live streams, man. I tune in from time to time, and it seems like not only is it great content, but you guys are having fun. Look at you; you can tell that you're just having fun doing it.
You know, it's funny, if there was one thing that came out of COVID that was good, um, it taught us that we could communicate through different avenues and different things. And that's when a lot of this content creation obviously came to be, just people trying to keep their mental health and putting stuff out there and to be able to talk. You know, John and I had lost touch after we both retired, and we had touched base here and there, but nothing like we do now. And it's been amazing rekindling that friendship. And because of that, you know, it's funny, like you retire and you leave and you have feelings about a place, but you maybe don't quite want to go back, and you don't. And because of this, this rekindling of this friendship we have, I mean, I've been back to events in Buffalo. John's been to things that he hadn't been to, and we're back, seeing people, seeing former teammates, and it's been awesome. And props to Joe, our friend Joe Miller, who kind of is the, I would say, brains behind all this. He's the one that drug John in, and then John drug me into it, and now we're doing it together. It's been awesome. I mean, we got a trip planned for March to go play golf down in Tucson and go see it down at John's place. And but yeah, Pop. I mean, it's been really cool. I mean, I've got to see a lot of former teammates the last couple of years I hadn't seen in a long, long time, and it's been good to kind of, I don't know, maybe bury some perceptions and just realize that, things that you might perceive aren't true. And it's
Yeah,
just good to see everybody.
but it's also a little bit of it's what you're doing in different versions of it, because there's tons of content out there right now. It's kind of what radio was and what radio should be and is supposed to
Yes.
be is
Yes.
is what's happening. And that's
Yep.
what's been so cool about it, is that you've been able to shift away and actually do it for yourself and do it for the others that are on the stream and the small companies that you build, instead of doing it for the big conglomerate that doesn't give a rat's about anything that
Yep.
happens. And it's sad to see what's happened to that medium, but it's also cool to see how this one has completely exploded and taken off, and people kind of taking back the power. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, everything we're doing is organic. I mean, our fan base is growing organically. We don't buy views. We don't buy, subs. We don't do those things. I mean, everything we've done has been organically and grown. And this season, we went into this not knowing what would happen, and it's continuing to grow, and we're having a good time with it. And we're kind of seeing, like, already we're doing these off-season shows, because we scale back in the off-season. We go from 5 shows a week down to 3, or 6 shows a week down to 3, and our numbers are triple of what they were last off-season. And that's with minimal pushes and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's part of why we're getting together to kind of decide what we want to do for the next season. But I think everybody, if I could do this daily, if I knew I could figure out a way to get sponsorship and do this daily, I would do it.
Yeah.
I would do it daily. And it's you're right. I mean, there's something awesome about knowing that what you put out there is yours. You own it,
Yep.
and you don't got to worry about anybody in an office in the corner, um, you know, looking at spreadsheets saying, well, we don't want to do that because we want to increase our revenue. So we'll just, syndicate something.
Man, that sense of community has got to be so gratifying too, man. Because not only you getting to reconnect with your former teammates, but also like just building a community within
Right.
the space. I mean, like you talked about with COVID, we realized like, bro, this life isn't meant to live on your own. You
Right.
you have to have purpose and to have a reason to get together and share with other people, because it just makes life so much more fun. And I mean, you're doing a great job of providing that for a bunch of people, Big O.
Well, it's been cool because, I do believe in what Dave Chappelle says about X or Twitter, that it is a bathroom wall. It just is. But the thing about it is it's given us a means to connect to fans And when we go to games, I mean, we've been invited to, I've stopped announcing when I go because you'll get like 10 invitations to go to 10 different huge tailgates. And if you don't show up, then you get wore out about not showing up, right? So I just kind of try to pop in. John's done the same thing, but yeah, I mean, we connect with fans. It's been cool. I mean, it's been a blessing. It really has, and we're enjoying it. And we're looking forward to a good off season and trying to do some more, more different things for this upcoming season.
And now you get into what is one of the best times of the entire year, and that's draft season, right? One of the one of the best ones. So I sent you the link, Dion. I don't think I've shared this with you. You're not as much of a draft dork though as what we are. Have you played around with the mock draft simulator that I sent you?
Have you, Dion? Oh, I've messed around with it a little bit.
Okay.
I had to put it down.
Yeah.
Because
yes,
I'm shiny thing guy, so I'm in my phone too much as it is, and now you bring me that, and it's like, good God. I mean, it's just you can just do all kinds of things.
Oh, dude, I know. After I did about my 5th, 7th round Niners mock draft, I was like, all right, buddy, you gotta focus on something else.
In this year in Buffalo, I'm of the opinion anyway, since we're talking about the draft, I don't want to have a first or second round pick when we go to draft day. We've got to get immediate veteran help.
Yeah.
We need transfer portal guys, Dion.
Yeah.
And the main one that we need plays on the same lake that we do. He's just more south than we are over in dirty Cleveland, and that would be Myles Garrett. He said he wanted to get traded, and I was like, brother, I got a place for you to go. I had a buddy send me something the other day about the release of Bosa, and I lost my mind because, of course, I go straight to Nick Bosa.
Yeah,
he's one of my top 3 favorite players in the league. I should say probably top 2 in the league. And then I had to realize, damn it, he's got a brother named Joey that is who they're probably talking about. But no, I'm looking forward to the draft. Obviously, it's a fun time of year. Combine starts tomorrow.
They're there, I think, and then the first on-field workout is Thursday.
Right. Shedeur has already said he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
No need.
Not a shock.
That time of the year. Hey, real quick before we wrap this up, Jerry, yesterday I went to Brent Douglas's funeral.
Oh damn.
For those that know, Roy D. Mercer, Phil and Brent, who's on KMOD, and man, I gotta say, I was trying to think the other day. You've been around the city a long time now. I can't think of a duo of those two, and especially with Brent and his characters,
right,
that brought more laughs to the city from just a medium that was built on entertaining the masses and just being able to make people laugh. I was just sitting there thinking about that the other day, and then I looked, and I tweeted this earlier today. They had the plaque that was there. They sold 3 million albums, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Roy D. Mercer sold 3 million albums from Capitol Records on prank phone calls. It's unbelievable. And I told Brent's son Adam this. Well, man, didn't really care about a whole lot of really anything other than maybe 1 or 2 things. And one of those involved, Silver Bullet. But I tell you this, he loved Roy D. Mercer so much that we had to replace that Roy D. Mercer for President bumper sticker. I don't know how many times, while we were growing up, like he had to have the newest, he had to get the fishing lure, he had to get everything. And the day that I called him, I was like, hey, guess what? I'm going to be on with Phil and Brent, doing sports in the morning on KMOD, filling in that day. Like, I don't know if he's ever had a prouder moment of me in my entire life than just telling him, like, oh my God, you get to be on with, because we would go to kite flights and events because he loved those 2 dudes. So yeah, there's a little bit of honoring the old man yesterday, but then also in going to honoring Brent. And I know you being around radio when you first got involved, back in the early 2000s. I mean, those dudes are legends in this place.
Oh, I mean, I remember the first time I got to go on the air with those guys. I sat in studio when they were doing a version of what was it, Lord Flatulence?
Yeah, yes.
They were
Yeah, it was
doing
a
an
Greek
episode,
theater. Yeah,
yeah, Greek
yeah,
theater. They were doing a deal at
yeah.
Greek theater, and I'm watching this, and I'm going, "This is amazing." And Dion, I don't know if you had the experience, like, and Pop obviously is a radio junkie, and it makes sense. Pop being an only child and rolling with his pops and having that experience with radio. I'm an only child myself. Had the same thing. I remember having a little radio that I would put it little that had the lone earpiece, one earpiece to go in your ear, and I'd get in bed and I'd put that thing in so my parents couldn't hear me, and I'd listen to the Phillies games. I'd listen to Harry Callis,
Yep.
who's legendary, and then you listen to the Eagles and Merle Reese, and then the Flyers games with Gene Hart, and we had these legendary announcers in Philadelphia. Then you had the radio shows in Philly that you had growing up, and John DeBella and Mark DeShark on MMR and YSP, and then Stern comes to town, and it's just radio was such a huge part, and that's what I loved about you know being up there and seeing those two. They still had the radio style of when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was that same feeling. There's and Pop listens to these guys in Dallas every day, like I do. There's a show called The Musers down there, and I'm sure you were from Dallas. You're probably familiar with them.
Yeah,
On the ticket, same type of feel with them. And you have to use your mind, and you listen and you think, and it's amazing. And yeah, Brent was a master. I mean, he was an unbelievable guy. And this is when Pop, we were the kids. I remember I was a kid, or you were younger than me, obviously, but when you got your comedy off of CDs, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I
Yeah.
don't care. I can't tell you how many times I was driving from Tulsa to back to Pennsylvania, or Tulsa down to Georgia to see my buddies, and you get in a truck stop like, damn, I want to listen to something funny, and you pick up the freaking Jerry Clower CD and the little box there, of all the different CDs you could buy, the trucker CDs.
Yeah. My old man, who was a truck driver, we listened to Gene Tracy, who is a comedian, nonstop on cassette tapes.
Right. And you had, Adam Sandler had comedy CDs, and, before Roy D. Mercer, there was the Jerky Boys, and there's just all this, and those guys were amazing. And the best thing about them, and both of them, but especially especially Brent, door was always open, never
Nope.
shooed you away, come on in, wanted to talk about you, what you were doing, friendliest dude of all time, and still would get certain things from time to time, even after he was retired.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just, it sucks. It's life, obviously. It sucks, but just absolutely legendary.
You brought up the ticket, and this is the last thing, I'll let you go. They had Ticket Stock this weekend, and I guess they had Switzer there.
Yes, I
was listening. Did you hear him tell the story about Jerry buying furniture for his house?
I did not hear that one.
Okay, so Dion, you'll get a kick out of this. They hire Switzer, and they've known each other since their Arkansas days. And Switzer said, "So I've got to find a place to live down here." And Jerry goes, "You know what, Barry? Just buy some furniture and send me the bill." He's like, "So damn." He goes, "I bought $400,000 worth of furniture and sent his ass that bill the very next week." He bought $400,000
back in those days
and sent the bill to Jerry Jones,
bro.
And they told the story, Dion, about how Barry signed a new contract, and the next day, or like a couple days later, Jerry Jones comes in. He's like, he was all like, felt bad about the contract he signed them to, so he said, "Man, rip that contract up, and we'll give you a new one." And he comes back or something. He says, "You signed that contract yet?" He said, "No, I haven't." He goes, "I was going to wait a couple more days to see if he'd give you some more money." And he's like, "You ain't getting any more. Sign the contract." But I didn't realize just how they actually had a pretty cool relationship, those two.
Yeah, they did. It seemed to be really cool. I still laughed my ass off, though, when I heard he's like, "I sent him a bill for $400,000 worth of furniture." Outfit his house.
$400,000 with
you an Oak man, Jimmy? You like
yes.
Marcel's
Uh,
gonna buy you a whole new bedroom set.
Yeah, some linens too. Replace the blankets. Where can people find you at, man, if they want to watch your stuff with the streaming platforms?
Just go to YouTube, type in Overreaction Buffalo. You'll find us on there. We're on every major podcast platform at Overreaction Buffalo. So if you don't catch the live stream on YouTube, you can next morning, usually by 6 o'clock, we'll drop the podcast form. And then if you want to get at me on Twitter, it's at Ostrowski_Big O. And if you don't bring something stupid, I'll interact with you. If you bring something stupid, you might get blocked.
On X, you can find me too. That's Overreaction Buff on X. Dion, good to see you again, my man. Be safe out in these streets.
Hey, you know how we are.
As my old man would say, don't get none on you, Dion.
Don't get none on you.
Hey, work on that game, Dion. And once we get to the warm weather, because I know that you got to play in the warm weather. That's why you're inside right now.
Hey, man.
You don't like that cold.
You know I don't.
Yeah.
But hey, meet me at Tour Quality, man. I need some tips.
We will. I ain't gonna give you any tips, but I'm gonna get you out. We'll get you out south. We'll play some golf this summer, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good, man. I can't wait.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you both for taking the time out of your Monday night to hang out here on Back of the Crib. Reminder that you can go and watch us every single Monday night right here on X. Please go to the YouTube page as well. It's the House of Pop. Click the subscribe button, hit all the likes, check out the other content that we have there as well there at the House of Pop on YouTube. Appreciate everyone hanging out, and we'll see you back again next Monday night or right here on Back of the Crib. All right.
Nice.